Welcome to my show. It's a guest here. His name is Jacob Moon. Mr. Jacob, how are you doing, sir?
I'm very good today. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you very much, Mr. Jacob. And thanks for asking, Mr. Jacob. Firstly, you are an independent author. You are also a former sales stagnant. Mr. Jacob, can you please discuss more about yourself and how you are doing currently now, Mr. Jacob?
Yeah, so I'm a 28-year veteran with the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office. I spent my entire career at the county jail. It was a 3,200 bed facility in a major metropolitan area in Southwest Florida, just outside of Tampa. And I did that for 28 years, rose to the rank of sergeant, worked every area of the jail, all shifts. And I can proudly say that I served every single day working face to face with inmates.
That is very, very beautiful. And honestly speaking, it take a very strong person to also manage, be in place like, like a jail is definitely not easy to monitor one or two things there. I also like to dive to your books. I've seen in your bio, it looks like you've written three crime fiction novels. Can you please discuss more on those books? And do you have more book you are planning to write in the coming future, Mr. Jacob?
Absolutely. So my first published novel was Furlough. I published that in 2020, and that deals directly with the U.S. jail system and the criminal justice field in general. It's basically about a young man who was jailed for a crime he didn't commit, and through fault of his own, he was never able to meet his 5-year-old son. And so he takes matters into his own hands and he escapes. And the story goes from there, where the police and other people are after him, and he's just trying to basically find some own personal redemption. And there's a detectives involved that kind of understand there's some police corruption going on with the state, so it's pretty involved. And then my second novel is called Dead Reckoning. That came out in 2022. And that involves a black tabloid writer who discovers a string of some pretty weird connected murders, and he believes that there could be a supernatural element with that. And then basically there's some tie back to the Jim Crow race riots that happened in their town 100 years ago. So it kind of goes back to the 1920s during Jim Crow in the Deep South, and then current day. And then my current novel, Letter 26, was published in December 2024, and that's a horror crime novel based in Minnesota. And I had to write one there because that's where I'm from.
That's very beautiful. It's very, very beautiful for someone to remember home. And those books are really, really beautiful. It dive people to, several things that someone could learn, one or two things someone could learn when it comes to, the jail system and other things that could help one or a person in the life he or she has come for. Thank you so much for those books and those insights, Mr. Jacob. I would like to dive to the point of the US jail system. We do know that this jail system, there are a lot of jail system all over the world, but there are some systems that we do have to learn and know more, get more education and more educated on those areas. So, how, in your own view, how do you think you can describe the current US jail system, Mr. Jacob? And what do you think are the key trends that are also shaping it, Mr. Jacob?
So I would say the current trend of the jail system is much more sophisticated and technologically advanced than it was when I first started. I definitely know that the training that the staff gets and the staff themselves are vetted a lot better. Um, I came in during the old school system. So in 1995, I was 22 years old, hit the floors, and there were people who had been working since the 70s. Also, the sheriff's office in the jail was being run by politicians who were also of the old school era. And there was a lot of the good old boy network that was going on back then. So basically, if you're incarcerated, in the 90s, this is on the heels of the war on drugs and some kind of old school mentalities, especially in the South part of the United States, where policing was just a lot different back then. So nowadays it's much more technologically advanced, and the equipment is better. Gosh, when I retired, it was night and day from when I first started. So it's definitely improved. There's a lot still to improve upon, but if I were someone that was incarcerated or one of my family members or friends, I would much rather them, if they had to be, much rather them going now than back in the 90s. It was a different day.
I completely agree with you. That is the beauty of technology also. There are a lot of development, a lot of technology that will also detect a lot of necessary things. During that time, there will be a lot of people who are innocent, but during this time that there is technology, there will definitely be tools that could be used to detect a lot of things that could get the right person who is guilty on a situation. So technology will bring a very big development, which is very helpful. Thank you so much for those insights. And I also like to dive to the point, as you said earlier, the war on drugs during that time and currently. How do you think the war of drug in your experience has also shaped modern crime and punishment strategies in our time? There are a lot of development when it comes to war on drugs. And also, Mr. Jacob, how do you think we can also better support people after the release to prevent redivision? That means something to the issue to reoccur with that person again, Mr. Jacob.
That's a difficult question because what in my experience now, it almost seems like rehabilitation was much more of a central focus in the criminal justice system in yesteryears, and to where now it's more of a difficult issue trying to reshape people back into society because the legislature, at least in Florida, where I worked in the jail, in the 90s and early 2000s, there were a lot of programs for inmates. So basically, someone came in. I remember there were sewing programs, there were vocation programs, uh, GED programs, what have you. So there were a lot more money that was put into rehabilitation to where now, unfortunately, it's much more, the onus is on the community itself once people have gotten out because the states now have just said we're going to incarcerate people and we're going to get away from the rehabilitation aspect and simply house them. And now, unfortunately, these people hit the streets and they don't have the skills, education, and whatnot. And it kind of creates a revolving door, unfortunately.
That means it's still a very, very difficult situation. Honestly, we do hope in the coming future the issue is going to be developed, and we also hope more better things happens in the coming future. And I also like to dive to the point of coaching, mentorship, guidance. Those are the things that are very necessary. Even in our time today, it is very important. Technology has gone to a point whereby if someone doesn't have someone who puts him through or who gives him the right guidance and the right way to go through his or her life, one could just divert to the wrong place. So, do you think coaching or mentorship has helped, reduce crime by breaking cycles by violence and reinsertion, Mr. Jacob?
It definitely can. And I'm a big believer in that mentorship and overall leadership starts at home. So as it's very well known that especially with people of color, that there's not a lot of dual parenthoods in families. So this could be more of a systemic kind of thing where fathers need to take responsibilities for their children and community leaders can definitely step up. So I was in the military and I don't think that there is any bigger mentorship for a young person than the military. And I would be a strong proponent for a lot of these kids who are maybe underprivileged or come from the inner city before they get in through the cycle of crime, especially if they're in a lower economic kind of area. Join the military, join a club. It might seem nerdy, because now the cool thing is to run the streets and to hang with all your boys and all that. Um, in the absence of a strong father figure, the military absolutely would be, I would see it like the first step toward that.
That is very, very inspiring, Mr. Jacob. That means the military is very, very important in some situations like that. And I also agree with you, Mr. Jacob, that respect and every discipline someone can have begins at home. It depends on how the parents do, take care of the child, do caution the child when the time comes, do tell the child what is right and what is wrong. So from that childhood, it develops. So if the childhood is already down, then definitely those situations emerge. And I also agree with you with the military area. Thank you so much, Mr. Jacob. And I also like to dive to the point of, there are some things that from your experience that in during the, lawmakers and other things that you think you feel like there could be things that could be changed, or there could be things that could be implemented to better understand it. So if you had the ear of lawmakers today, Mr. Jacob, what do you think is one of the urgent reform you think you would ask for, Mr. Jacob?
For me, that's an easy one. Mental health. So I worked for my 28 years. I supervised the mental health unit for about 15 of those 28 years. And I personally saw how people who were mentally ill, and there was a large proponent portion of the population that are suffering from mental illnesses that are either undiagnosed or they're just not receiving treatment for it, and how they get caught up in the criminal justice system. For instance, I saw this scenario happen hundreds of times. Somebody comes in, they're schizophrenic, they have any type of mental illness, and they fight someone in the home. They don't mean any harm, or they steal something. They're in an alternate reality, and they come to jail. Someone else who came to jail with that same charge might get out the next day. These people don't have that same option. They don't have families. They don't have somebody that's advocating for them, and they can't get out right away because now they're stuck in the system and they have to wait around for a competency hearing. So for you and me and most people who might be out in a day, these people were still in the system for months or sometimes years. And so the biggest reason that's an issue, at least with my jail in Florida, is the closing of mental health institutions and hospitals across the state. The jails were de facto mental health institutions. And a lot of those folks, it was sad to see, didn't belong there. And they're stuck for months, like I said, months or years, when they should really be in a mental health institution.
That is very, very emotional, Mr. Jacob. Mental health is something that every single person really, really needs. And also dive into that point of saying that there are some people who do not have that family, who do not have that accompanying that some people have. As you said, there are some people that will go into such situation. The next day, the third day, they are out of it. But those people do not have those resources that they have, and they could be there for months. We do definitely hope that that definitely improve, because it's definitely not easy in situations like this. Being in a place that one shouldn't be is not easy at all. Instead of doing better things outside and also improving his or herself in the life he or she has come for. So I completely agree, and that is very, very emotional. Thank you so much for those that insights, Mr. Jacob. And lastly, Mr. Jacob, there's a question I normally ask during the end of the show, Mr. Jacob. From our forefathers, there are a lot of beautiful things that do exist during our forefathers' time that is missing in our time today. If there is anyone or anything you would like to bring back to our time today, Mr. Jacob, what do you think that thing would be, Mr. Jacob?
Uh, for me, that'd be easy. That'd be Martin Luther King and his ideals. Uh, I was born about 5 years after he was assassinated. So I never had the privilege to hear him speak live. I would love to have him. We've just had some recent protests here in the country, and there's a lot of political upheaval going on right now. And I think that the absence of him and people like him that are advocating for especially the African American community in this country, that there's kind of a vacuum now, and that after King, after Obama has been president, that there's almost seems to be a reversal in the country. And just to have someone who's just so articulate and thoughtful and caring just for people in general, regardless of what color they are, but especially for people who are less privileged. I would love to be able to have a chance to have him just be around.
That is one of the biggest legend that African American definitely love. He said something that really, came to pass, if I'm correct. So definitely, we do hope that better things comes in the coming future, honestly speaking. Well, I'm not in America, so I do not really know how it is there. I'm in Africa, yes, so it's definitely not the way I think it is. So I do not know how it is, but we definitely hope that in the coming future, better things comes. And we hope that this unity, this love within one another, no matter the background, no matter where one come from, this love from within will definitely emerge in the life we come for. We definitely hope it definitely comes back. We are not yet there, but we hope that with the development and the improvement the life will come for, we hope that it definitely gets there, because it is definitely not easy in a situation where someone could feel oppressed. It's not easy. So I want to also sincerely thank you for the opportunity and the time, Mr. Jacob, for discussing on the prison roof and also the criminal. You dive a little bit in those areas. So I want to sincerely thank you for that. Thank you so much, Mr. Jacob.
Oh, thank you, Demi.
All right, so have one wonderful day, Mr. Jacob. Bye bye.
Bye bye.